Welcome to this week's edition of the Think Tank. Hey, I'm Toby D. Of course, you already know if we think about it, we gonna talk about it. Today, we got an interesting topic to address. And you already know, it's Matt Ryan restructure. Now, initially yesterday, man, I was on Twitter on the way home, and I did not want to report this because I did not know if it was actually true. But it turns out it was from a reliable source who first initially reported it, works for PFF, that Matt Ryan contract was restructured by the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this was, of course, probably around about 3 or so when I recognized this. And then I just waited until I got a blue check guy that officially verified that this was true. And sure enough, lo and behold, later that night, Ian Rappaport did report that the Atlanta Falcons, from a source, did restructure Matt Ryan's contract. Now, I'm just going to be honest. These are some things from this new regime that continue to make me scratch my head about the direction and where they're trying to go. But nonetheless, we heard that this was possibly going to be a code red option for the Atlanta Falcons by Steve Weiss, who is now back with us and reporting on the Atlanta Falcons, who said that the Falcons were hoping not to touch Matt Ryan's contract if they didn't have to. And JR and he had convinced me that, hey, there is belief that they won't touch that $48 million cap hit by the Atlanta Falcons, Matt Ryan, and allow it to go ahead into this year, so that next year, maybe if they wanted to move on, their cap hit would be a little over $15 million if they wanted to move on from Matt Ryan. But instead, the Atlanta Falcons chose the code red option, and they went on ahead and restructured Matt Ryan. Now, it did take his cap hit down from $48 million down to a little bit north of $36 million this year. And next year, if they decided they did want to move on, the dead cap is going to be a little higher at $27 million and some change. But still, that is a good number if you should decide to move on from Matt Ryan to be able to leave off and under the contract in 2023. We shall see how it unfolds. But what does it mean for the Atlanta Falcons specifically? Now, we know that the legal tampering period is coming up real soon. I think on Sunday the 13th, and the new league year begins on March 16th at 4 o'clock. But teams will be able to start to negotiate with players that are eligible for the free agency that did not get franchise tag. So we're going to see how the Atlanta Falcons can move, especially now since they have saved $12 million in cap space by restructuring Matt Ryan's contract for the 5th time, I believe, 2 times under the new regime. And like I said, what does this really mean for the Atlanta Falcons? There are players that I know they want to resign if it fits into the parameters of their contracts that they are willing to offer players within our own organization, like Foye Oluokun, that many are saying may price himself out of the Atlanta Falcons range, that could be worth a little over $10 million a year for a team that signs him in free agency. If that's not the Atlanta Falcons, we shall see how that plays out. Cordell Patterson, a guy that I was hoping probably around about week 5, seeing how well he has played for the Atlanta Falcons last year, leading up all the way to the end of the season, had great pass catching numbers and running numbers for the Atlanta Falcons. How that contract is going to work out. Did he price himself out of the Atlanta Falcons range? There's reports out there that the Atlanta Falcons may not be able to afford him if he does not fit into the parameters of what they are willing to pay. And these are some things that Terry Fontenot mentioned during his presser at the Combine, that they have contract parameters that they are willing to offer and can't go over, that they're willing to offer players in free agency. So we shall see how that unfolds. Can this Matt Ryan situation now actually help them get a formidable offensive line for Matt Ryan? Finally, this man is going on 37 years old, and if you are committing to him, what you keep saying you're not trying to commit because you don't want to back yourself into a corner, as Arthur Smith would say, and not want to put yourself in a situation where teams are not willing to talk to you because you're closing the door, which reports have come out that there are teams that believe based on conversations they've had with the Atlanta Falcons, that they are not trying to trade Matt Ryan at all, especially if they're not going to get a knock you off your feet type of offer that they would like to get, that you're seeing out there currently for guys like Russell Wilson and you saw for Matthew Stafford last year. So they're not going to be giving Matt Ryan away for pennies. So it looks like Matt Ryan will be the starting quarterback for 2022. But it still makes me answer the question, are you going to go out here and get a formidable center in front of Matt Ryan this year? Now, you got guys out there like Ryan Jensen from the Tampa Bay Bucks, who I like. That's my top guy that I would love to have. But many people believe it's more sensible because of two guys now that Arthur Smith has dealt with over there in Tennessee Titans, Ben Jones being one of them, the center, nice, nasty type of center you would love to have in front of Matt Ryan and Arthur Smith is familiar with. And now Roger Saffold, the guard over there, the Titans just released, could be an option and in play to fill in at that left guard role, allowing you to move Jalen Mayfield back to the right tackle position. There's also a popular name that JR and many other Twitter guys have been putting out there, James Daniels from Chicago, who has experience playing center and at guard, and is someone that Ryan Pace, the new guy that we brought over here, who was let go by the Chicago Bears as their GM, who knows James Daniels and that roster over there very well because he's had hands-on time with that roster and information on that. And James Daniels could be in play, someone Dave Ragone and them are also familiar with, that they could bring over here that would probably give the Atlanta Falcons an affordable contract that will fit in the parameters of what they are willing to pay as they're looking for value in this free agency. There are also guys in this draft now that could change some things, because if you're going to have Matt Ryan here for another year and you're also going to prepare for the future, as Terry Fontenot would say, have our cake and eat it too. Arthur Smith and him both have agreed they want to build this team first before they put a new quarterback in place to take over for Matt Ryan when they decide to move on from Matt Ryan, however that goes. But you're going to need a line in place, even for a mobile guy. That would be an extra added bonus to help that mobile QB if that's the direction that you decide to go. Now, they did not back themselves in a corner saying that they would specifically just go that route. They would be looking for the QB that fits what they want to do, whether he's mobile or he's not mobile. It does not matter for Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot. But we should see how that plays out. But you got guys in this draft that could potentially fall to you at 8 because the way things are shaking out. Sauce Gardner has probably put himself up there in the top 10 to where he could be taken as early as 4 or 5 to either the Jets or the New York Giants. And you also have Trayvon Walker out of Georgia, the WSB-TV, that is getting heavy talks, about possibly being a top 10 pass rusher, who has all the measurables, no doubt, at 6'5", 272 pounds, and ran an official 4.51 at his combine. So this is another guy that can slip up in there that could knock guys, top guys at that, like North Carolina State, Akeem Ikwonu, down to the Atlanta Falcons, who has some experience at playing guard in college, but played a lot of left tackle as well, and a nice, nasty player that could fall potentially to the Atlanta Falcons, and they might pull the trigger on him. Possibly even Evan Neal, the left tackle out of Alabama, 6'8", 324 pounds, looked very good at the combine, did not participate at the combine, looking to participate more at his pro day. But this is another potential who I have currently both of those guys at 4 and 5, with Akeem slightly getting the 4th ranking on my board right now over Evan Neal. So those two guys could potentially fall to the Atlanta Falcons. How about Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M? Now, I currently have him on my board at 12. Now, he could be a viable option for the Atlanta Falcons. This guy has played all over the line at Texas A&M, and especially looked very well at left guard, and a potential future move in place left tackle, if they decide to move on from Jake Matthews, you will still have a future left tackle potentially there already drafted for you if you decide he is worth a top 8 pick. Of course, we can talk about Iowa, Tyler Linderbaum, the center out of Iowa. Now, not many centers go in that top 10. They usually hang around anywhere from 11 to 17. And we've seen that throughout history where they've been taken if you take one in the first round. Tyler Linderbaum is definitely a guy that if you decide you're not going to go into free agency and get a center, is a guy that you could possibly be looking at, and we'll see whether the Atlanta Falcons have these guys ranked on their board. Could be someone they could believe as a top 10 pick. Now, Charles Cross, I only talk about a little bit because I don't know a lot about his flexibility as playing other than what I've seen him play at left tackle out of Mississippi State. But all of these guys are options. I want to see if the Atlanta Falcons are going to focus on getting a formidable offensive line in front of Matt Ryan, because Matt Ryan has shown us he wants to win and willing to restructure his contract. Does this mean that Jake Matthews and Grady Jarrett decided against a contract extension? I don't know. This was something that was reported by Steve Wash, that this was a possibility of the Atlanta Falcons. We shall see how that all unfolds. There are still guys that the Falcons have not cut yet. Now, we know that they have somewhere like $16 million under the cap because of what happened with Calvin Ridley that got them under the cap, almost $4 million. But then you add Matt Ryan's $12 million in savings, that's $16 million. But you still have not cut guys like Tyler Davidson, who may not have a spot for him, with guys like Anthony Rush, who did very well at nose tackle last year, and Mike Pennell taking over those roster spots may push Tyler Davidson out. Now you're going to save almost another $4 million, which will bring you into $20 million of savings, and you still got Kendall Sheffield, a guy that has been injury plagued since he has gotten to the Atlanta Falcons when we drafted him, I think, in 2019. I don't know if they're trying to hold on to him or not, but he would also add more to your cap space, giving you probably close to $24 million. We shall see how all of this plays out, ladies and gentlemen. I know there are some people that are not happy about this right now. I did tweet out that I was a little sad about it. If it was true with the first initial report that came out earlier in that day, but it did get confirmed, it's happened. We got to move on from it and see what Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith's plans are for the 2022 season as they lead themselves into 2023. Other than that, man, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. Please like, share, comment, all of those things. Let me know how you feeling about this, what you think the Falcons could potentially do now, because there are so many options at 8 for the Atlanta Falcons, and maybe possibly a trade down this year for Terry Fontenot and Kyle Smith and crew. We shall see how it goes. Other than that, it's Think Tank. I'm Toby D. Peace. I'm out.